My name is Charles Gould. I'm Managing Director of Brightwave, and I'm delighted to see such a well-attended seminar standing room only, which is great. I guess, given that I'm the first presenter of the day, it ought to fall to me just to welcome everybody to the exhibition, and just to point out that there is a lively Twitter back channel. The hashtag is LSG13. I'm going to be speaking for about 20 minutes, so there will be time for someone to turn the music down over there, but there'll be time for some questions at the end. What I want to do today is talk about Brightwave's vision of next generation learning. I'm being slightly put off by that music, sorry about that. So we're going to talk a little bit about something that Brightwave is passionate about, which is the impact of emerging technology and digital trends on the world of learning at work. And we feel very strongly that it's our responsibility as a well-established e-learning company that we're looking very much at what the future is for learners at work. And I want to base my talk around three concepts that I think are going to be important. And they are that learning for next generation learners at work will need to be continuous, adaptive, and collaborative. So what do we mean by next generation learners? Well, chances are that there'll be knowledge workers. Knowledge work is defined as the improvisation and the use of judgment in ambiguous situations. In the Western economy, most of the people who are at work are knowledge workers in one shape or form. And so this is quite important, because what it's really saying is we have to think, and we have to use information, and we have to make judgments. We're not simply going through procedures or routines. Yes, there'll be times where we have to learn how to do something in a specific, predefined way. Yes, we'll have to complete compliance courses and things like that. But actually, most of us are learning all the time at work. And in the developed world, knowledge work is the economy. This is a remarkable statistic, and so is this one. And this is really important, actually. This whole, it may well resonate with many people here, but the fact is we spend a huge proportion of our working day seeking information. 38% according to one study, which when converted into time and ultimately money is a massive investment into the economy. So are we as people who are involved in this industry of learning and development, are we recognizing that? And are we looking at how we could perhaps make better use of that time or even reduce it? Another feature of a next generation learner is that they are reluctant to commit time to what you might call formal learning. So that may well be a course that you attend, a training course, or it could be an e-learning course as well. And what we find is that people, especially those people who are in knowledge jobs, are very reluctant to spend that sort of time. And yet, just like you and me, we're of course learning all of the time. And this is a key concept, I think, that increasingly learning is being woven into how we work. You know, decades ago, learning would take place in a 2-week residential course. 10 years ago, learning might take place in a 2-hour CBT. Now, it takes place literally every minute of the day. Other characteristics of our next generation learner is that they expect to be able to access content, masses of it, and mostly free content, whether it's for entertainment purposes or indeed for more serious purposes, such as TED, or of course now the Khan Academy, and we've seen the rise in MOOCs in the academic world as well. So there's an expectation that you should be able to get automatic and very quick access to content that is free. Of course, they also expect to be able to do that using mobile technology and a multitude of different devices, as you saw from the photo earlier. And this won't surprise anybody that just the sheer amount of traffic and data that's being delivered over the mobile networks is exceeding that of fixed IP traffic. And of course, our knowledge workers and our next generation learners are hugely fluent and familiar with social media. And increasingly, there is social media that is related to work and careers, such as LinkedIn. But it comes from our familiarity with social media outside work. And I think this is a real crucial point as well for a next generation learner. The fact is that we, in our home lives and outside work, in our recreational lives, have better, readier access to superior technology than we have at work. Very often at work we have limited bandwidth, we have creaking infrastructure, and we have IT policies that prevent us from doing what we would expect to do. And what that means is that we're seeing an increasing gap between what new employees coming out of schools and universities expect and what our employers are actually providing us with. This concept of a learner expectation gap is a very important one in terms of our ability to engage the workforce, our workforce, as it emerges. And related to that is the fact that many skills that a knowledge worker needs are not being enabled at work. This is a graph from Towards Maturity, the benchmarking study that happens every year for around 600 organisations looking at how they use technology for learning. And some of these new generation, next generation learning skills just aren't enjoying the kind of investment that we might be putting into other areas of technology. So we have a real issue. But why is this important? Well, we're still wasting money on formal training that actually knowledge workers aren't particularly interested in and which they quickly forget and are reluctant to attend. That leads to an inefficient use of time. And if we're spending 38% of time seeking information and not using it, then, as I said earlier, it's a vast inefficiency, which also leads to poor productivity. Not in a manufacturing sense, but again, in a knowledge worker sense. And ultimately, if that learner expectation gap is growing, we are going to have a disengaged workforce. Now, the next generation learner is therefore somebody who we need to be very aware of and we need to be ready to serve. And those three things that I mentioned at the beginning are crucial. So continuous. This, again, is a remarkable stat from Towards Maturity. We're frustrated about the flexibility we are given at work in terms of how we learn and how we access information. Outside work, whether we're on the train on the way home or whether we're sitting in front of our TVs on the sofa with an iPad, we expect to be able to instantly get to the networks of people that we want to and know, or information on the internet. I said next generation learners need to feel that their learning is adaptive. We're capturing masses of data. This buzzword, big data, is being bandied around. But actually, if we have the right tools and systems, we can capture an awful lot of information about how people are learning, what they're using it for, and then make sure we're providing increasingly more effective learning solutions for those people. So that's what I mean by adaptive. And then ultimately, collaborative. Now, we've always collaborated. We've always learned by sitting with Nelly or talking to our colleagues or chatting around the water cooler. Now, what we all realise is that with 500 LinkedIn connections or 600 Facebook friends, we have a much greater opportunity to learn from peers, from one another, and to collaborate. So what does this mean for us as learning and development professionals? How can we use technology to close the performance gap? So I've spelt out a lot of the problems. I've described what the next generation learner expect and how they learn outside work. How can we actually address this and make the best use of these technologies inside work? Well, Brightwave's response to that is to launch a product, a brand new product launched earlier this year, which we've called Tesselo. And I'm going to show you a brief demonstration of it in a second. But ultimately, what it is it's a learning management system of the type that you may be familiar with, but not one that you would consider a learning management system, or certainly a next generation learner would consider it to be a learning management system. It's all about supporting performance in a continuous way. It comes with the ability to have expert created or curated content, but equally important, peer-generated content and user-generated content in a collaborative way. At its heart is the new Tin Can Experience API, some of you may be familiar with, that enables you to capture informal learning experiences as well. And it comes with learning analytics dashboards and reports that enable the curator of content to be able to constantly and continuously refresh and improve the learning experience. So I'm just going to... I'll come back to this. I'm just going to click into an example of a live demo of Tesselo. So just imagine that you are part of a sales team in a large food manufacturer, and you're part of an academy which is situated on the Tesselo platform. And what we've got is, if I scroll around a little bit, in the top half is content that has been created and curated for the purposes of a sales team. And in the bottom half, you've got a much more social area. I'll dig into this a little deeper. This section here is what you might consider to be a conventional learning management system, and indeed it actually taps into the LMS that sits beneath it. And this is where you might put the pre-packaged e-learning content that everybody needs to know and understand. Then you've got tiles of content that you can have as many of them as you want, and inside that are expert curated content. So this is content that perhaps the sales director or other senior people who are deemed to be the experts can bring content together, and they can do that by assembling links and so on. You might have links to live online training sessions. And there will be there's the ability to add news and make sure. So the key thing here is that it's continuous and it's changing. There's a reason to go back to it, and there's a sense that you're learning from an expert who's actually making an effort to keep it dynamic and relevant for you. At the heart of this, as I mentioned earlier, is the Tin Can API, and I'll just dig into this for a second. Tin Can allows me to capture all sorts of experiences. So it could be that I want to capture the fact that I've been to this conference. There's an app that goes with Tesselo that allows me to video, perhaps me speaking, and then make some comments. Alternatively, I could be browsing the web and I find an interesting report by McKinsey, and I can just click, if I can find it, a simple bookmarklet, which will save that web page, and I can then make some comments on it. And I will save that then to my record, my experience record. Go back to, you can see that it's now saved. So that's my experience record, but then I can choose to share it as well with a community. So I might then want to, I mean, these are pretty rudimentary comments, as you can see, but I might then want to share that with my colleagues who are also part of the academy. And that will then appear in this area here. I can also vote or like any of this content, anything that's been shared or indeed curated. So I might say that I particularly like that piece of content there, or any of those. And what will then happen is the most popular, just as in any social media forum, the most popular and most used content will bubble to the top in this trending panel here. And then I can also choose to recognize people. I can give them badges. I can recognize their contribution through points. It might be there are quizzes and tests that people want to take. And so there's a very flexible scoring system that allows people to be recognized for how they're participating and their expertise. So again, it might be that I think, well, Meg Green is someone I really want to listen to because she seems to know what's going on in this academy. So what you've got is something that is rich in content. It does have expertise, as we'd expect as employees. We're not just roaming anarchically around the internet on our own. That content might be created in a conventional way that a lot of the suppliers here will do, and indeed we would do, in the form of e-learning. But it might equally be curated, as I say, by an expert. But it's also content that is commented on, liked, and recognised by the individuals as well. So we think that this really gives you a dynamic and continuous learning experience. Underneath it is a learning analytics system that will enable you to, or a moderator to be able to, or a curator to see how that learning is being used. There's a dashboard that constantly looks at the data, pointing you towards areas that perhaps you should be focusing on. People are maybe struggling with a particular concept, so you might curate some content or create some content there. And as I say, at its heart is the Tin Can API, which allows you to capture that 70 or 90% of learning which isn't formal from learning experiences. Let's go back. So as I say, and this isn't, it may start to seem like a bit of a sales pitch, but we're genuinely excited about this product because we think it's really tapping into some trends and technologies that nobody else has really done yet. So we launched it at the last conference that was held here at the end of January, and we're finding now that it's being used very much for some of the things that you saw there, sales skills, but also leadership skills, management skills, the very skills that a next generation learner will need to have in a knowledge economy. Thank you. Just if there are any questions, you may not want to stand up and ask them. It's a very difficult environment with all the noise that's buzzing around. But we have a stand just there, and there are many willing Brightwavers who would be very happy to discuss this further with you, and I'll pop over there as well. And indeed, you can, if you want a more detailed demonstration of Tesselo, then that can be arranged for you over there as well. Okay. Enjoy your day. Thank you.